Welcome to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. If you come here for deep, unvarnished breakdowns of celebrity moments that echo far beyond a single night, make sure you tap subscribe, hit like, and consider joining the channel. Your support keeps these conversations alive and sharp. The premiere of The Eighth Family arrived with the grandeur everyone expected. A lavish carpet rolled out like a promise, lights so carefully arranged they felt choreographed, and a sea of familiar faces from cinema and television. The evening had all the hallmarks of a celebration that should have stayed anchored in fashion praise and pre-release excitement. Yet, in the world of modern fame, a tiny motion can swell into a saga, and that's exactly what unfolded. The photographers got their frames, stylists hovered just out of sight, and managers mapped out who should stand where with the kind of precision you only notice when it fails. Veteran names chatted with rising talents, and the scene shimmered with that layered hierarchy of experience and ambition. But as clips and stills began to pour across platforms, it became obvious that the conversation would drift away from the film's merits and toward the visible dance of positioning. Who moved, who paused, who seemed to claim the light? From the start, there was fuel for scrutiny. Senior performers brought gravitas, newcomers carried a steady glow, and publicists kept the carousel in motion. In that swirl, an instant featuring two widely recognized actresses drew specific focus, an almost invisible step forward, hardly more than a shift in weight, followed by a small recalibration of space. It happened in seconds, but on the internet timing stretches and freezes. Reposted and replayed, the movement began to tell a story of its own. On one side of the frame stood Yağmur Yüksel, poised and camera-ready, on the other, another actress adjusting her footing. The slightest lean from Yağmur, hardly more than an instinct toward the brightness, became the seed of interpretation. Screenshots multiplied. Slow-motion edits accentuated the inching forward. A gesture that could simply have been a search for light transformed into a proposed strategy, and a routine red carpet tableau took on the charge of rivalry. That tension, gesture versus meaning, ruled the commentary well past midnight. Even those who claimed they didn't care watched the loop a dozen times. Into that charged stream stepped Elçin Sangu. She offered a brief, pointed take that cut right through the noise, and instantly everyone had a reference point. The words were compact, the tone unmistakable. She didn't name names, but she didn't need to. Her comment crystallized what many had been muttering, that some choreography on these carpets isn't accidental, and that audiences can feel when a moment is shaped, not stumbled into. Reaction landed with the speed of a flashbulb. Some applauded the frankness, saying her insight finally articulated a slippery dynamic, the way certain stars, knowingly or not, edge forward and command the center. Others accused her of turning something trivial into scandal bait. As those takes bounced across feeds, the original clip of Yağmur's barely there step became a battleground. Half the crowd insisted it was deliberate, the other half insisted it was nothing. Meanwhile, Barış Baktas, who had arrived hand in hand with Yağmur earlier, exchanging those small glances that fans read like subtitles, found his own presence roped into the narrative. Screenshots of him standing a shade behind, giving her space, were held up as either protective grace or quiet complicity, depending on who was writing the caption. You've seen the pattern before. Once a moment becomes content, the momentum of platforms takes over. Users spliced footage into frame-by-frame breakdowns, layering on text and arrows as if they were reconstructing an accident instead of a photo call. Influencers specialized in reading celebrity body language slowed the movement to a crawl, narrating each fraction of a second, the widening of a smile, the tilt of a shoulder, the angle of a chin. Some edits colored the scene with dramatic music, turning a breath into a plot point. Within hours, the online conversation split cleanly in two. One stream claimed that Yağmur had intentionally moved to the foreground, asserting primacy in the shot. The other offered that it was merely practicality. Too many bodies, narrow space, the light shifting, instincts guiding her to a better mark. To understand the energy behind all this, it helps to remember the built-in theater of a premiere. These gatherings are performance spaces, doubled back on themselves, actors performing presence, photographers performing pursuit, outlets performing narration. Everyone enters an unspoken exchange. Stars are expected to deliver cinematic images with their posture alone. Photographers deliver reach. Media turns images into storylines. The idea of an unguarded second becomes complicated in that contract. A move toward the lamps can be self-protection from a harsh shadow, a reflex to an intrusive lens, or just steadying one's stance in heels that punish balance. That range of possibilities creates interpretive gaps, and when a person with visibility supplies an explanation, the gap narrows for the public, whether or not it's true. What stoked the debate beyond the initial remark was what came next, a follow-up that hinted the moment was part of a broader pattern. Elson Sanga suggested that what played out on the carpet echoed movements visible inside the venue itself, quiet rearrangements, subtle stakes, all of it legible to anyone paying attention in the room. With that, the story expanded from a single clip to the suggestion of an entire backstage language. Supporters praised her for naming it, for daring to say the quiet part aloud. Detractors accused her of flirting with rumor, of jeopardizing cordial ties for the sake of clicks. Inside the flood of takes, fans of Barış and Yağmur spoke up with intensity. They posted compilations of earlier events where the pair navigated crowds with tenderness, showing Barış guiding Yağmur to the carpet's edge so the train of her dress wouldn't snag, or stepping back so she could own the shot while he anchored the frame from the side. These montages argued that what looked like a grab for spotlight was, in fact, their familiar choreography. He protects the perimeter while she faces the flash. Others countered with their own archive, pointing to the handful of times Yağmur's forward stride coincided with highly publicized moments. The discussion started to resemble an essay about the economics of visibility. Awards, press cycles, and the architecture of publicity reward the person who holds the center, so is occupying that center a moral failing or savvy professionalism? Another voice entered, an established actor offering a calm, almost offhand observation. That what viewers saw aligned with how the actress in question has long curated her public image. It wasn't said with venom, it landed with the casual authority of someone who has attended 1,000 carpets and learned to read the rituals. That single line, repeated and reframed, did two things. It reduced the drama by normalizing it, suggesting this was nothing new, just part of a known approach. At the same time, it pulled the moment back into focus by weaving it into biography. If behavior fits a pattern, then a single step becomes a thread in a larger fabric. For some, that made the clip feel conclusive. For others, it simply shifted the goalposts of debate. Of course, not everything about the night bent toward friction. Between the viral frames were dozens of interactions that embodied warmth. Senior performers greeted Barış with hugs that blurred work and friendship. Emerging talents spoke about craft, not clout, and handled the pressure with poise. There were quiet acts of solidarity, someone adjusting a colleague's cuff, a whispered warning about a tricky patch on the carpet, a spontaneous laugh that softened the formalities. Barış and Yağmur, for their part, shared a few unguarded seconds after the photo call. He leaned in, said something that made her laugh from the shoulders, and she squeezed his hand as if to say, "We're fine, we know who we are in this room." Still, this episode opens wider questions about the way the fame machine feeds itself. When is a gesture information, and when is it projection? How much of what we read in emotion is just our own desire for a narrative that confirms what we already believe? Social media condenses ambiguity into sides. People pick a team and then collect the evidence that serves it. Intentions, meanwhile, remain private, known fully only to the person who took the step and the partner who knows the story behind the smile. In this case, that means Yağmur and Barış, two people accustomed to being both characters on screen and characters in public imagination, had to carry the weight of interpretation. As the immediate rush of takes began to soften, the industry recalibrated. Publicists clarified schedules, stylists swapped out shoes for ones with a more forgiving heel-to-toe, and actors found new ways to share space in front of the cameras without turning the choreography into a scorecard. The premiere had done its job, the film gained attention, but the margins came with cost. A fleeting motion became a week's worth of discourse. That's the paradox now. Visibility sells, but the very acts that secure visibility can be turned into questions of virtue. Barış and Yağmur didn't offer official statements, but they didn't need to. Their subsequent outing, low-key coffee, no glam, the kind of ordinary day that resists captions, felt like a reply. They walked side by side, not a step ahead or behind, and let the cameras capture what they wanted to say. So, what do we do with all this? We watch, we interpret, we debate. And maybe we ask ourselves what we're hunting for when we slow down a clip until it loses the life that produced it. Are we seeking a moral verdict, or are we just fascinated by the machinery of fame as it grinds and glitters in real time? The red carpet is a stage and a mirror. If we insist that every adjustment signals strategy, we'll find exactly that. If we allow that people move for reasons as simple as comfort and light, then ambiguity remains. Neither posture is wrong, but each produces a different story, and those stories shape the celebrities who live inside them. We want to hear from you. Do moments like this capture genuine friction, or are they inevitable effects of a publicity system that rewards standing center frame? When you watched the clips of the 8th Family premiere, did you see a calculated step from Yağmur, or a reflex in a crowded, bright corridor? And how did you read Barış's partner, protector, or simply present? Tell us below, and let us know which couples and stars you want us to cover next here on Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Your perspective matters. It teaches us how to see. Thank you for spending time with our deep dive into a single step that became a storyline. If our breakdown offered clarity, please like, share, and subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Consider supporting with the join button so we can keep delivering the kind of thoughtful coverage that lingers after the headlines fade. Drop your thoughts in the comments: who acted with intention, and who was pulled into the frame by the camera's hunger? Until we meet again, keep asking what sits behind the picture.